Some films were harmed in the making of this podcast.
Hello and welcome to the inaugural episode of In Case You're Considering. This being the first episode, I should go over what it's about. And the premise of this mini podcast is that I have seen thousands of movies in my day, and I like pretty much every last one of them. I like watching good movies. I like finding the little scuffs in the otherwise well-polished surface of those. I like watching mediocre movies, just turning off my mind for a bit and watching some people punch each other, or even a crappy rom-com that is so formulaic you can see all the plot points happening an hour and a half before you even start watching it. And I like watching crappy B-movies that are never really going to be critically acclaimed, but they have those specks of gold in them. Here's some special effects that are great. Here's a bit of writing that was really well done. Here's some acting from a no-name that actually works out quite well. Here's a well-set-up scene. I like finding that kind of thing in movies, but every now and then there's going to be movies that are just unsalvageable. They are just such a mess from beginning to end. They're going for something that just doesn't work, and they're the few movies that I actually dislike, the ones that I would never ever go back to, and the ones that I would warn people off against. And so the purpose of this podcast is pretty much to warn you off of these movies. Granted, I'm probably going to be giving them a little bit of attention, and people might go out and actually watch them for the purpose of either proving me wrong or seeing what was so bad about it, but that is a risk I'm willing to take. And so for our first episode here, in case you were considering watching Nekromantik, let me convince you otherwise. Nekromantik is a 1987 West German film directed by Jörg Buttgereit, and it follows the short story of a man who's working for a cleaning agency that pretty much specializes in stuff like cleaning up after traffic accidents, suicides, murders, things like that. And he happens to be someone who also steals body parts to bring them home, where he and his necrophile girlfriend, both of them are necrophiles, just do whatever with them. Both of them are necrophiles and completely get off on that, even though there's definite issues with their relationship. She's often giving him crap for being not manly and not making enough money, and people at work do not like him at all. They consider him weird, doesn't talk much, and just creepy, and doesn't clean up his clothes, smells, all sorts of issues all over his life. The movie starts off with a couple getting killed in a car accident, and Joe's cleaning agency comes by, cleans them up, and this is where you can see the low budget immediately. First things first is that they're just picking up the body parts and stuffing them in garbage bags. Barehanded. They're not trying to do anything that would be remotely considered safe or hygienic whatsoever. They might as well be wearing hard hats and a safety vest for all of the safety that they're adhering to. It's ridiculous, and it took me right out of it. It was more like just a group of people collecting it as a hobby, pretty much, as opposed to any sort of professional anything. But alright, low budget, you gotta forgive a little bit at the very least, right? It moves on to show his home that's filled with those aforementioned jars containing body parts preserved in formaldehyde. Just, you know, the nice mom and pop sort of decorative stuff that everybody has kicking around their house. It shoots off to a couple of scenes of a rabbit being slaughtered and skinned, to a scene of an autopsy on a human cadaver, and then a guy who's in his yard shooting at some birds and drinking, but accidentally kills a nearby gardener, and then hides the corpse. That apparently is a bit more relevant because there's a certain style of a German film known as the Heimat films, where it would essentially be conservative West German genre, where there's a morally impeachable family and community, and an analyst, Linny Blake, would say that this is sort of evoking and deriding this genre and sort of pointing out that you'll have this image of people who live up to these certain standards, these certain moral standards, but then hide what's actually going bad, right? Hides the stuff, and they'll hide the stuff that's actually negative in their world. When I was first researching this movie way back in the day, I came across an analysis which says that it's sort of how Germany's treating their involvement in World War II. It's something that's always hanging over your head, but it's something that they all sort of don't really talk about a whole lot. And so you have this necrophilia, you have this cleaning agency whose symbol is the Totenkopf, which is often used in militaries, more specifically like the SS and the Panzer brigades in World War II era Germany. So you have this stuff that's sort of right out in the open, but nobody really talks about. I didn't necessarily see the connection to World War II other than that, and it was certainly right out there in the open, the Totenkopf. What I did see was a commentary on desensitization, which I'll get to in a minute here. After these assorted scenes, the main character goes back to work, and he finds this body that's been rotting in a pond, and he steals it so that he could bring it back for him and his wife, which they immediately cut a steel pipe, turn that into sort of a penis, put a condom on it, and now they do a three-way, which of course is a very fun little scene for everyone to watch. What looks like after that is that they cook up and eat some of that meat while also having it like drain fluids that they collect. All sorts of fun little stuff there. The next day after this scene, he gets fired for not cleaning up his suit and for being late all the time, while his girlfriend is reading a love story to the corpse and straddles it. When he comes back, she gives him crap for being useless, for not being a man, for not standing up to himself, for not being able to make enough money. Soon leaves him and takes the body with her. In an outburst, he kills the cat and then starts having a bath while he's got blood and stuff dripping on him, and he's just masturbating with the animal corpse's entrails. And then, of course, he goes to see a movie, because why not? He's hanging out at the movie, and this is the scene that makes the most sense in the movie. This is the one that has some actual depth to it. And it has him in this movie theater watching a movie, and there's a bunch of couples around. There's men, there's women. And the movie that's being shown is a snuff film. There's a woman who's just constantly running away from this maniac. And it just goes on and on for a little bit. He's looking around, and the couples, they're snuggling up like this is a rom-com of some sort. They're sitting there, they're eating popcorn. The woman starts to get tortured on the screen, and the women in the audience will lean over and kiss their husband. They'll cuddle up like they're snuggling up by a fire. And it really shows sort of a desensitization, any sort of violence, in particular in the media. And certainly back in 1987, you do have the emergence of a lot of slasher films. You have Halloween coming out, which they found, oh, hey, we can make this cheap slasher movie and make a lot of money off of it. So you have the rape revenge films like Last House on the Left and I Spit on Your Grave. You have Nazi exploitation, you have blaxploitation, you have all sorts of exploitation films all over the place. And if anything, this movie is a commentary on a lot of that. At least that is the most obvious thing that I'm seeing from it. After that scene, you're left with the main character trying to commit suicide with some pills and whiskey. He goes into a weird dream where he comes out as sort of a zombie thing, and he gets a corpse's head, and he's got these entrails, and he's just tossing them back and forth in a field, and it's ridiculous. If anything in this movie is going to make you laugh, it's just how ridiculous this scene is. It is pretty funny, not gonna lie. He gets up, goes out, hires a prostitute, and tries to sort of get off a little bit, but he's unable to do that. He kills her and is now suddenly able to have sex with the corpse. After waking up, killing somebody who walks in on him and the corpse, and running back home, he decides he's going to commit suicide. He whips his dick out, starts gutting himself, and then all of a sudden, he starts having the biggest ejaculation you've ever seen outside of really fake porno, and he starts coming blood, and then you get flashbacks to the rabbit being killed earlier in reverse, and now he's dead, so you see his grave, and somebody goes to dig him up, presumably his girlfriend. And boom, at the very least, I've spoiled the plot of the movie for you. The special effects in this movie are actually really good. The body is nice and gross and corpse-like. The blood and entrails are blood and entrails, because apparently that's an easy special effect to get from any butcher shop. But the acting, mediocre, I guess. It is what it is. There's nothing super terrible about it. The costumes, though, as I said, in the scene where they're cleaning up after the body, it's you can't believe it whatsoever, and that colored my entire impression of the movie, making it seem far worse than it probably could have been in terms of just the images. And the movie, or the film within a film, was even worse quality than the film itself. It was pretty bad. But there's not really much going on in the film, and it's very dull. And if there's one thing that I've heard before, it's that the ultimate sin of a movie is to not be entertaining. It can be good entertaining, it can be bad entertaining, but when it's boring, then you failed. And at the end of the day, this movie was pretty boring. There's the couple of scenes, the one with in the field that'll probably make you laugh because of the sheer ridiculousness. There's the one that I pretty much saw the movie for, and that's the gross sex scene with the corpse. Because I saw this during a time when I was basically looking for every single movie that's the hardest movie to watch. What's the grossest thing out there? Sure thing, I'll hunt it down and I'll find it, and I'll watch it, just to say that I've watched it. And honestly, that's most of the reason why I think most people are going to watch this movie, for its notoriety. And I will say that there are more disturbing films out there, so if you're doing it just for that, good for you, I guess. At the end of the day, I can't really think of anyone who I'd ever really recommend this movie to. I don't see the illusions as being anything worthwhile watching from an artistic standpoint. I don't see the grossness really worth watching unless you're one of those people who really gets off on it. You're not going to learn anything from the movie. You're not going to really feel much from the movie. The one scene in the movie theater is the most worthwhile thing in the movie, and I've already told it to you, and that's about it. He goes in there, people are acting all odd. Honestly, if you could find just that one scene, you can watch it by itself. You don't really need to see the rest. And so hopefully, in case you were considering Nekromantik, I've convinced you otherwise. I've been your host, Dustin Friesenhan, and until next time, take care.